Did the Babylonians treat the Israelites? No, not very good. Yep, not very good. That's a short and sweet answer. This is one of my favorite sections of the Bible we're moving into. Today's lesson? This king, this time, that time, this many years. But it's how we get our timelines. People that are way smarter than me can put that all together and figure out what year it is. So we've been studying Israel. God's made it very clear that he hates sin. So God set his judgment on Israel, and in 721 the Assyrians destroyed them. Cast them out of the land, destroyed the land, brought other people in. Now we've been moving towards the fall of Judah. So we're, in today's lesson, going to be right around 607 BC. Now during this time, Isaiah and Jeremiah had prophesied about Babylon coming to attack and destroying, God's judgment falling on them. Jeremiah also promises that exile will last for 70 years, which I think we get into why today. Now this week we have a new memory verse. Anybody know the new memory verse? They missed you last week, Ma. Yeah. You think she's impressive here, like Tammy was saying, women's Bible study. What is it, a chapter now? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. We should do that again. Anyhow, who would like to read the new memory verse?
I'll read it. Therefore, the Lord waits to be gracious to you, and therefore he exalts himself to show mercy to you. For the Lord is a God of justice. Blessed are all those who wait for him. Isaiah 30:18.
What a good verse. Therefore, the Lord waits to be gracious to you. Who does he exalt by showing you mercy? Not you, himself. All right, so last week we learned of God's warning through the prophets of Jeremiah to Judea and Jerusalem. Who can recall some of the reasons God was going to bring judgment to Judah? Sin and worshiping idols. Lots of idol worship. Now, what did he relate their idolatry to? Adultery. Because they were supposed to be in a covenant relationship with him, which is what marriage is a covenant relationship. So God was going to bring a nation from the north to wipe out Judah, since they were not willing to repent. Babylon is about to sweep in and exercise judgment on the people of Judah on behalf of God. Today's lesson will look at 3 stages of captivity. Babylon didn't conquer Israel and didn't destroy Israel, though they conquered into one, but they didn't destroy it. It took 3. 3 campaigns, they finally just wiped it off the face of the earth. The first thing I believe you guys have is 3 steps of destruction activity. There is a lot of detail in the account of the captivity of Judah. A lot of it is found in 2 Kings 23 through 25, 2 Chronicles 35 and 36, Jeremiah and Daniel. This says we're going to work in groups, but we'll work in one group. We'll do this activity together and examine the text and come up with an outline describing the major events and timing of the events and the leaders during the phases of destruction. So turn to the 3 steps in your activity guide, and we're going to read through 2 Kings 23:26 through 25:12. Try and understand the timing of the events from King Josiah forward. As a starting point, King Josiah dies at 610 BC. From there, you should be able to determine the timing of the other events, and you also want to take note of the actions of the oppressors. So I will read our text, 23:26 through 25:12. Still the Lord did not turn from the burning of his great wrath, by which his anger was kindled against Judah, because of all the provocations with which Manasseh had provoked him. And the Lord said, I will remove Judah also out of my sight, as I have removed Israel. And I will cast off this city that I have chosen, Jerusalem. And the house of which I said, my name shall be there. Now the rest of the acts of Josiah and all that he did are not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah. In his days, Pharaoh Necho, king of Egypt, went up to the king of Assyria to the river Euphrates. King Josiah went to meet him, and Pharaoh Necho killed him at Megiddo as soon as he saw him. And his servants carried him dead in a chariot from Megiddo and brought him to Jerusalem and buried him in his own tomb. And the people of the land took Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, and anointed him and made him king in his father's place. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned for 3 months in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father had done. And Pharaoh Necho put him in bonds at Riblah in the land of Hamath, that he might not reign in Jerusalem. And he laid on the land a tribute of 100 talents of silver and a talent of gold. And Pharaoh Necho made Elikam, the son of Josiah, king in his place of Josiah his father, and changed his name to Jehoiakim. And he took Jehoahaz away, and he came to Egypt and died there. And Jehoiakim gave the silver and the gold to Pharaoh, but he taxed the land to give the money according to the command of Pharaoh. He exacted the silver and the gold of the people of the land from everyone according to his assignment, and gave it to Pharaoh Necho. Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned for 11 years. His mother's name was Zebedah, the daughter of Pidah and Rumah. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. In the days of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim became his servant for 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him, and the Lord sent against him bands of Chaldeans, and bands of the Syrians, and bands of the Moabites, and bands of the Ammonites, and sent them against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of the Lord that he spoke by his servants the prophets. Surely this came upon Judah at the command of the Lord to remove them out of his sight, for the sins of Manasseh, according to all that had been done, and also for the innocent blood that he had shed. For he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, and the Lord would not pardon. Now the rest of the deeds of Jehoiakim, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? So Jehoiakim slept with his fathers, and Jehoiakim his son reigned in his place. And the king of Egypt did not come again out of his land, for the king of Babylon had taken all that belonged to the king of Egypt, from the brook of Egypt to the river Euphrates. Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he became king, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathah of Jerusalem, And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his fathers had done. At that time, the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem, and the city was besieged. And Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, came to the city while his servants were besieging it. And Jehoiakim, the king of Judah, gave himself up to the king of Babylon, himself and his mother and his servants and his officials and his palace officials. The king of Babylon took him prisoner in the 8th year of his reign, and carried off all the treasures of the house of the Lord, and the treasures of the house, or treasures of the king's house, and cut in pieces all the vessels of gold in the temple of the Lord, which Solomon, king of Israel, had made, as the Lord foretold. He carried away all Jerusalem, and all the officials, and all the mighty men of valor, 10,000 captives, and all the craftsmen and the smiths. None remained except the poorest people of the land. And he carried away Jehoiakim to Babylon, the king's mother, the king's wives, his officials, the chief men of the land, and took into captivity from Jerusalem to Babylon. And the king of Babylon brought captive to Babylon all men of valor, 7,000, and the craftsmen and the metalworkers 1,000, all of them strong and fit for war. And the king of Babylon made Mattenah, Jehoiakim's uncle, king in his place, and changed his name to Zedekiah. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name, Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah, and he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. For because of the anger of the Lord, it came to the point in Jerusalem and Judea that he cast them out from his presence. And Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. And in the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, on the 10th day of the month, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came with all of his army against Jerusalem and laid siege to it. And they built siege works all around it. And the city was besieged till the 11th year of King Zedekiah. And on the 9th day, on the 4th month, the famine was so severe in the city that there was no food for the people of the land. Then a breach was made in the city, and all the men of war fled by night by the way of the gate between the two walls, by the king's garden. And the Chaldeans were around the city, and they went in the direction of Arabah. But the army of the Chaldeans pursued the king and overtook him in the plains of Jericho, and all of his army was scattered from him. Then they captured the king and brought him out to the king of Babylon at Riblah, and they passed sentence on him. They slaughtered the sons of Zedekiah before his eyes, and put out the eyes of Zedekiah, and bound him in chains and took him to Babylon. In the 5th month, on the 7th day of the month, that was the 19th year of King Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the bodyguard, a servant of the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem. And he burned the house of the Lord, and the king's house, and all the houses of Jerusalem. Every great house was burned down. And all the armies of the Chaldeans, who were with the captain of the guard, broke down the walls around Jerusalem. And the rest of the people who were left in the city, and the deserters who had deserted to the king of Babylon, together with the rest of the multitude, Nebuzaradan, the captain of the guard, carried into exile. But the captain of the guard left some of the poorest of the land to be vine dressers, and plowmen. That is a lot. So King Josiah died in 610 after the battle with Pharaoh Necho. That was verse 29 of chapter 23. He reigned for 31 years. He was a good king, seeking to restore right worship to Judah. Jehoahaz, the son of Josiah, in 23 verse 30, only reigned for 3 months. He was an evil king, and he was put in prison by the Pharaoh of Egypt, Necho, and it dies in Egypt. These events all occurred in 610. Jehoiakim, formerly named Eliakim, was put in place by Pharaoh Necho. He was a son of Josiah, paid tribute to Necho, and he reigns for 11 years. He also did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. He also became the vassal of Nebuchadnezzar, and the first phase of captivity begins in the 3rd year of his reign. You can cross-reference that with Daniel 1:1. When Daniel's writing about it, it's the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim. So since the reign began in 610, the beginning of Babylon captivity begins when? What would be the 3rd year of his reign? 607. But he remained on the throne for 8 more years. But at that point, Nebuchadnezzar takes away some of the people, the nobles, to Babylon. You guys probably know the names of 4 of them. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, and Daniel. That's the 4 main ones you'll hear about in captivity in Babylon. I can never remember Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's Hebrew name, because that was the names they were given in Babylon. Where Daniel was given Belshazzar, and I can remember both of his, but I can't remember the others. So then Zedekiah was put in place. Or no, wait, did I skip something? Yeah. Jehoiakim was the son of Jehoiakim and is the grandson of Josiah. So he begins to reign in 599 BC. He only reigns for 3 months. His doesn't last very long. Nebuchadnezzar's servants besieged Jerusalem, carried away all the skilled workers, along with the articles from the temple, along with Jehoiachin and his family. So 599 then marks the 2nd phase of captivity under Nebuchadnezzar. Then Zedekiah was put in place by King Nebuchadnezzar in 599. He was an uncle to Jehoiakim and also one of Josiah's sons. You think the years get goofy. The bloodline. We're counting backwards. Yeah, we're going to 0. Yeah. So the further you move, the closer to 0 you get. So he was wicked, and he reigns for 11 years. In his 9th month, he rebelled against Nebuchadnezzar. And Nebuchadnezzar then set siege to Jerusalem, a siege that ends within 2 years. The city fell in the 11th year, so that year would be 588. "19 years after the first captivity." So this is, when you read Daniel, it's not a short story, because Daniel's written over 70 years, the whole of the captivity. So Zedekiah was captured, his sons were killed, his eyes were plucked out, and he was taken to Babylon. After this time, they destroyed the city of Jerusalem. So this was the 3rd invasion. The temple gets destroyed, the houses, the king's palace, the city gets leveled. Who are the only people that are left in the land after all these invasions? Only the poorest of the poor. Why leave them? Because the people you're going to put in need workers. So they're going to be slaves to whoever Babylon puts there to work the vineyards and the fields to provide food. Is there any more questions in yours? Okay. So 607 BC, Jehoiakim, 2nd phase, 599, 3rd final phase, 588. That was God's judgment on the land through Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. We don't have much time, so I think we're going to pick this one up again tomorrow because or next week. I don't want to skip over it. So, questions on that, and then I want to do an interesting tie back. You got the timeline figured out in your mind. Yeah. So, what was another name for the Babylonians that they kept using? Chaldeans. Why do you know that name? Who is a famous Chaldean? Can anybody tell me where Abraham came from when God called him? Ur of Chaldee. Complete 180. This is the land that Abraham came from, that God called him out of to establish Israel. And this is now the land that God is sending to destroy Israel. Very same people their people was called out of. Now, was Babylon a good kingdom, a godly kingdom, God-fearing kingdom, honorable kingdom? No. But who sends them to destroy Israel? God. So no matter which side of the aisle you stand on, every time we have a bad president, it's a gift from God. He gives us what we deserve. No matter which way you land on it. I don't think we've had a good one since I've been old enough to keep track. If you want to go in a godly sense and not financial or this or that or whatever other standard, but if you want to go a godly leader, I don't think we've had one.
We were not meant to be a theocracy, right? We were not meant to be a God government.
No, we were not set up to be a theocracy, but we were set up on Judeo-Christian principles. And I don't know that we've had a leader that's followed those principles in my lifetime. We look to get them as far away from government as we can, since I've been old enough to pay attention. So why do you think our nation's going the way it's going? You know, it matters. Our leaders matter. If the Old Testament teaches you nothing else, when Jehoiakim is leading, the whole nation is serving idols. And our church leaders, your leaders, period. Well, let's back it up. There's 3 institutions that God put in place to restrain sin. First one is? Government. That's third. That's the second. Family, the home. So, husbands, you're supposed to lead your home in godly worship and godly service and godly actions. We lost that a long time ago. Then our churches, look at them. Most of them are public speakers. They're not pastors. And then our government, the third one that's supposed to help restrain sin, promotes it now because we don't have godly leaders in there either. It's so murky, Christians don't want to get into government. They're afraid they're going to get too dirty, so they stay away. Which they're not wrong. Most of them do. But, so those 3 institutions have failed since 60s, 50s, and that's how we are where we are.
People blame, my soapbox here a second. People blame taking prayer out of schools, but prayer was taken out of homes. That's where the breakdown occurs.
Yep.
It's not a teacher's responsibility to teach prayer. It is a home, father, parent.
Yep, home first.
Yeah.
I would argue school second, but I argue the fact that we gave school over to government was our first mistake. School always used to be run by churches, if not churches, groups, but it was 99% churches that funded schools and hospitals and did all that stuff. When it became expensive, we're like, here you go, government, take it.
Taken the court by Catholic and Jewish families, by the way. If you go back to the original.
To removing it.
Yeah, to removing her from school.
But yeah, the first breakdown is the home. Second is the church. Second is the government. Third is the church. Whichever way you want to order them. The government, church is more important. Home, then church, then government. Yeah, I think I mixed it up in the last one. But home is where it all starts. So if you're not, I'll pick on the men just because, well, they're used to it. If you're not being a godly leader at home, you're the problem. Churches, if you want to go get your ears tickled and you pick a church because somebody's really good at singing or flamboyant or well-spoken, but they don't preach the gospel, that's your second fault. And if you don't get involved in government, that's your third. 40% of Christians don't vote. And then we get mad. Because I think it's about 40% of Christians don't vote. Because normally you look at the two candidates, and if you want to weigh them on a biblical scale, neither one of them are qualified. So they just tend to wash their hands with it and stay out of it. None of them are going to be qualified. You're not electing a pastor, but you're electing somebody that you hope is going to be closer to your views and God's views. Yeah, they don't follow that either. But yeah, it all starts at home is my big point. That's our biggest failure. Wes, you want to close this in prayer?